This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us this Thursday, February 11th. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, the nuclear threat from Iran, now that a top Iranian official has openly said Iran may build a nuclear weapon. How will Israel and the Biden administration react? President Donald Trump's defense team will get its turn after Democrats make their case in his second impeachment trial, as Republicans remain unlikely to convict the former president. President Joe Biden's climate agenda. We're going to hear why the former head of Greenpeace says it's expensive and harmful to Americans. And prayers for Rush Limbaugh as the radio broadcast legend battles lung cancer. All those stories and more are ahead in today's edition of CBN Newswatch. We want to begin this half hour with more on that important story we first told you about yesterday. For the first time, a major Iranian leader has said Iran could pursue a nuclear bomb. The unprecedented statement raised the stakes in the growing nuclear confrontation between Israel and the U.S. and Iran. Chris Mitchell brings us the story now from Jerusalem.
Iran's intelligence minister issued the warning. He claimed Iran's nuclear program is peaceful, and Iran's supreme leader Khamenei issued a fatwa forbidding a nuclear weapon. But he added, if pressured, Iran could change course.
If a cat is cornered, it may show a kind of behavior that a free cat would not. If Iran is pushed in that direction, then it wouldn't be Iran's fault, but those who pushed it. Under normal circumstances, Iran does not have such a program and intent at all.
But these are not normal circumstances. Alavi's threat comes after Iran announced it's now enriching uranium one step away from military-grade uranium and researching uranium metal, a key component of a nuclear bomb.
As we see it, Iran will not stop enriching uranium. They never wanted to. They don't today, and they will not in the future.
While the enrichment goes on, Iran's Khamenei and President Biden are in a face-off. Khamenei says no new deal unless the U.S. lifts sanctions. And Biden says no sanctions relief unless Iran returns to the negotiating table.
Will the U.S. lift sanctions first in order to get Iran back to the negotiating table?
No.
They have to stop enriching uranium first.
Here in Israel on Tuesday, Israel Defense Forces estimated Iran is 2 years from getting a nuclear bomb. Secretary of State Antony Blinken recently said they might be weeks away. But some say it's simply a political decision by Iran's leaders.
Technologically and scientifically, we don't see the time as a real problem. So it's not the time problem, so you can say weeks or months or a year or 2 years, only about the political situation you want to represent.
In the meantime, Israel's chief of staff has already said Israel's military is preparing operational plans in case Israel needs to attack Iran's nuclear facilities.
Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem for more on these important developments. Chris, what would an Israeli strike look like?
Well, first of all, Ephraim, I would say that operational plans have been in effect for years. General Kohavi is sending a signal to the U.S. and Iran right now. He's also sending a signal to allies in the region. Other Israeli leaders are sending the same signal, which is very important. For an attack, you would include F-35s. They have a number of them here in Israel. Tankers to make sure they can get to Iran and back. You can also include special operations. And right now, it's important to emphasize, Ephraim, that can actually fly over Saudi airspace with the Abraham Accords. They don't have a specific treaty with that, but you know that Saudis and Israel see themselves on the same side of this covert war with Iran, and they may have covert operations just like the assassination of Iran's chief nuclear scientist several weeks ago. And it would seem right now they may have to go it alone.
So what's behind the warnings by Iran's intelligence minister?
Well, Ephraim, I'm sure it's putting pressure on President Biden, and some are calling it even extortion. And you see this crescendo of orchestrated threats. First of all, they're enriching uranium more than the nuclear deal allows. Then they're enriching uranium to 20%, which is one step away from weapons grade. Uranium metal, they're researching that, as I said in the report. And now the threat is not only the major one. An Iranian nuclear newspaper said why Iran must seek a nuclear bomb. So we're hearing these signals from Iran over and over again right now, and they want to get the U.S. to take away sanctions that really have crippled Iran's economy.
Chris, there's a new report about how Israel killed a leading Iranian nuclear scientist. What can you tell us about that?
That's right. His name is Fareed Zadeh. He was claimed he was killed by the Mossad. This is what this new report says, with a one-ton remote-controlled gun that was destroyed after the assassination, but it was smuggled in piece by piece for months. Now, the reason he was targeted is that his fingerprints were all over Iran's covert nuclear program. Now, that was discovered in 2018 when the Mossad seized Iran's nuclear secrets. Now, they say there was probably a team of 20 Israelis and Iranians involved in this operation. But the important thing for Israel right now is no matter how it happened, he was really the head of the nuclear program, and this probably sets that program back months, if not years.
There's a new report about how Israel killed a leading, I'm sorry, you answered that. What kind of support is Israel looking for from the Biden administration?
Well, first of all, Ephraim, I think they would like a phone call. You know, it's been a number of weeks since the inauguration of President Biden. He hasn't called Prime Minister yet. Now, the White House has kind of dismissed that. But here in Israel, it's kind of concerning that, you know, when President Obama came in, when President Trump came in, it was just a matter of a few days before he called them. So now it looks like the Mossad chief, his name is Yossi Cohen, he might be the point man for negotiating, or at least telling the White House and President Biden that really they want no nuclear deal. But if they had a deal, these are kind of some of the things they would want. No sunset clauses. The 2015 deal had sunset clauses that would last maybe till 2025, 2028. They want to eliminate those. They also don't want to have any money for the terror organizations. What happened, Ephraim, after the 2015 deal is that they gave billions of dollars to many of the Iranian proxies in the region. That would include Hezbollah in South Lebanon, also in Syria, many of the Iranian militias in there, the Houthis in Yemen. So really, these billions of dollars helped spread the terror network of Iran all over the Middle East since 2015. One other thing they would want in any nuclear program.
All right. It looks like we've lost your audio. Thank you, Chris, for your time and your insights there. Much appreciated. Back here at home, former President Donald Trump's defense team will start making its case in the Senate impeachment trial after House Democrats finished up their arguments against him. They say his prime supporters for months to reject a peaceful transfer of power if he lost the election. And he knew exactly what he was telling his supporters to do on January 6th. Our Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson has the story now from Washington.
In opening arguments, House impeachment managers introduced never-before-seen surveillance video showing just how close rioters came to the lawmakers they wanted to find. As Officer Eugene Goodman led the mob away from the Senate chamber, security rushed Vice President Mike Pence and his family to a secure location.
The insurgents were at one point, as you saw, 60 feet away from the Vice President and the Vice President's family.
Impeachment manager Joaquin Castro showed as Pence's life was in danger. Trump tweeted this.
At 2:24 p.m., he tweeted, quote, "Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution. USA demands the truth." Over an hour and a half into the attack, and this is what he tweeted.
And the insurrectionists took notice.
Donald J. Trump sent a tweet out saying that Mike Pence let us down.
Castro also pointed out to the Senate jurors that Trump never called for the National Guard to help those on the front line.
Senators, ask yourself this. How easy would it have been for the president to give a simple command, a simple instruction, just telling them, stop, leave?
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell told Republicans earlier this week to vote their conscience when it comes to deciding conviction. House impeachment managers will finish up today. Then President Trump's defense plans to argue that while there's no question the mob attacked, Trump did not incite them. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
I want to turn now to the latest controversy in sports. Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban relented Wednesday, and the national anthem will now be played before the NBA team's home games this season. Cuban had decided not to have the anthem play, saying that the team felt like the tradition, quote, did not fully represent them. But that move drew quick reactions across the country, and the NBA reversed its previous decision supporting Cuban and said the anthem would be played by all teams before games. Coming up, a warning on President Biden's agenda to fight climate change from the former head of Greenpeace. He says the president's move to rejoin the Paris Accord is an expensive mistake and harmful to Americans. We're going to hear what he told CBN News when we come back.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
President Joe Biden's ambitious executive actions on climate change may end up costing U.S. taxpayers trillions of dollars. That is the warning from the former director of Greenpeace. On this week's episode of The Global Lane, he suggests Joe Biden's decision to rejoin the Paris Agreement on climate change is a costly mistake. Dr. Patrick Moore is now with the CO2 Coalition, and he says the agreement unfairly punishes Americans.
It will have the effect of allowing China to continue growing its emissions along with India and many other countries, which I don't doubt that they feel like they should do that. But for the United States to artificially constrict itself without other countries agreeing to doing the same thing, first off, is ridiculous. And secondly, the United States is the only industrialized country that has reduced its CO2 emissions over the last 10 years because of substituting natural gas for coal in electricity production primarily. The wind and solar people take credit for it, but that is not the truth. The truth is that coal has gone down and gas has gone up, and gas has only 50% of the CO2 emissions of coal. So naturally, CO2 emissions go down when you do that. The Chinese have just built more new coal plants in the last year than the whole rest of the world put together. I don't understand why the United States would do such a thing when the Chinese are pretending that they are going to start phasing out fossil fuels in 2060. You know, like that's 40 years from now. And it's costing jobs and it's costing energy independence for the whole of North America. Because not only is the U.S. on this kick, but the Canadian politics in the East are trying to destroy the oil sands in the West. And they have the whole U.S. environmental movement on their side, along with the Rockefeller Brothers Foundation in New York. They say they're fighting climate change. No, they're fighting fossil fuels. It's a war on fossil fuels. They can't change the climate. They have no idea what they're doing when they say they think they can change the climate by ending the use of fossil fuels. It is a fairy tale.
I want to talk a little bit more about the agenda, but it seems that we're returning to the Obama-era policy of shifting the country away from oil and gas production. Energy workers and industry officials, as you know, are angry over that. They're losing their livelihood. Some politicians suggest, well, these job losses can be minimized if we just produce more solar panels and windmills. Your thoughts?
It's not possible to replace reliable, cost-effective energy that comes from fossil fuels, hydroelectric, and nuclear power with technology that is intermittent, really intermittent, like sometimes 3 days it goes away. That's why hospitals are putting in huge diesel generator sets in order to be ready for these blackouts, because they can't do without power. They have to have it 24/7, and wind and solar can't do that. Every time you build a wind and solar farm, you have to build something else that is reliable to back it up.
So I'm assuming you don't buy into this premise that we're going to experience more monster storms, flooding, natural disasters. If we don't act quickly, we may have a short time before the seas rise and the world comes to an end. So what's the real agenda here?
Well, I would first like to know what the world coming to an end actually looks like. That's such a stupid thing to say. The world isn't going to come to an end, and neither is life on Earth going to come to an end. They are playing on people's belief in things that are invisible and or so remote that no one can see them for themselves. Those are the fake, invisible catastrophes, like the giant Pacific garbage patch twice the size of Texas in the middle of the Pacific Ocean where no one can see whether it's there or not. It is not there. It does not exist. It is a total fake thing that CNN is playing up as something real out there in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Twice the size of Texas. It's not there. All the plants that produce the basis of life in the sea, it's the phytoplankton, which are tiny plants. On land, it's all the forests and fields that you see growing plants. That is the basis of life, and they live because carbon dioxide is in the atmosphere. And the fact is, carbon dioxide is at one of its lowest points in the history of Earth, the long history of Earth. And here we have made up this fantasy that carbon dioxide is a pollutant, that it's like toxic or something. It's absolute rubbish. But because you can't see it, you can't observe for yourself what it's doing. You can't look over and say, look what the CO2 is doing over there, because you can't see it. So they can make up any story they want. And then, because the average person can't observe it for themselves, we have to depend on the activists, the media, the politicians, and the scientists on serial government grants for the truth. Why would they tell us the truth when their whole careers depend upon us believing their fake scare story?
Follow the science, the real science, and follow the money. Okay, Dr. Patrick Moore of the CO2 Coalition, thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Pleasure to be with you, Gary.
And for more important stories, be sure to check out the Global Lane this evening at 8:30 Eastern. You can find it on the CBN News Channel. Still ahead, school shutdowns across the country have also led to closing down sports for students. We're going to bring you a look at how one Christian group is enlisting churches to help out. We've got the story for you right after this.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
School shutdowns across the country have not only affected students' ability to learn, the lack of sports activities has also created more problems for children, including mental health. Charlene Aaron shows us how one Christian group is enlisting churches to help get sports back up and running.
From disorganized virtual learning to no activities like proms and after-school sports, COVID-19 has disrupted basic rights of life for this young generation, leaving many with mental and behavioral issues that could linger well after the virus is gone.
I think about the price so many of my grandkids and your kids are going to pay for not having had the chance to finish whatever it was. That graduation where you didn't get to walk across the stage, I think they're going through a lot, these kids.
The president isn't alone in that assessment.
It's awful, and it's universal. There's an increased incidence of anxiety disorders, depression, suicidal ideation. Kids often don't know how to manage the anxiety that they feel.
An impact psychiatrist, Dr. Daniel Amen, says isn't going away anytime soon.
We're going to feel the reverberation of the pandemic for at least a generation of children and teenagers.
Lockdowns and social restrictions have basically crippled many youth sports organizations, leaving activities in some states canceled for the past 10 months. While some youth sports are finally starting back up, a new study reveals 3 out of 10 kids won't be returning to the lineup.
The difficulty has been there. We know that when kids are playing video games at home instead of out exercising and interacting with other kids, it can be detrimental to their health.
The group Upward Sports helps local churches set up sports leagues in their communities. Executive Director Kevin Drake told CBN's Prayer Link how sports often serve as a physical and emotional outlet.
Kids need structure, and we know that when kids are together and in organized sports, that it brings that discipline and structure for them.
Drake emphasizes a key part of the equipment list.
Our number one goal is to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with people who need it. And so you put the power of sharing the gospel with the ability for churches to partner in their communities to bring kids back together for sports.
Meanwhile, with COVID vaccinations happening across the country, President Biden is pushing to reopen public schools in the next few months. Yet, like with much of the pandemic, it is unclear when youth sports or anything else will return to normal. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Are being extended for a legendary radio broadcaster who calls himself America's Anchorman, Rush Limbaugh. We're going to bring you the story when we come back. Stay with us.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Check out the CBN News Daily Rundown podcast each weekday with me, Caitlin Burke. Click on the show tab at cbnnews.com where you can listen and subscribe.
Rush Limbaugh's longtime producer thanked people for praying for him as Limbaugh took another day off from his broadcast Thursday because of his advanced lung cancer. James Golden, who goes by the on-air name Bo Snerdley, tweeted Wednesday, "Our prayers are with Rush as he continues to fight the illness he has been afflicted with. We are still praying for a remission." In a health update on his show in October, Limbaugh spoke about his faith in Jesus Christ, saying, "I have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ." He said, "It is of immense value, strength, and confidence. That's why I'm able to remain fully committed to the idea that what is supposed to happen will happen when it's meant to." Limbaugh has also often thanked those who have prayed for him. Before we say goodbye this morning, we like to share this prayer of gratitude in this Thursday Thankful. God, I thank you for your love, and I embrace your call to give that same love to others. There is no greater gift. With that prayer, I encourage us all to make today a thankful Thursday. A posture of gratitude makes every day better. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. I want to remind you can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com at any time. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us at the address right there on your screen, newswatch@cbn.com. And, of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Again, I encourage you to make today a thankful Thursday and join us right back here, same time tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye, and God bless.